This lecture is on Lewis dot structures, specifically on ionic compounds. A quick review on ions. Ions are produced when atoms either lose or gain electrons. For example, a sodium atom loses one electron to become sodium ion. A sodium atom has 11 total electrons and has one valence electron in the third energy level. The chemical symbol is Na. A sodium ion has only 10 electrons with a net charge of +1. The chemical symbol is Na+. The reaction is Na forming Na+1 and an electron. Another example, fluorine gains one electron to become fluoride ion. The fluorine atom has 9 total electrons and has 7 valence electrons in the second energy level. The chemical symbol is F. A fluoride ion has 10 electrons with a net charge of -1. The chemical symbol is F with a -1 charge. The reaction is F plus an electron to produce F-. Lewis theory has 3 statements. 1. Lewis bonding theory emphasizes the importance of valence electrons. 2. Uses dots to represent valence electrons either on or shared by atoms. 3. Arranges bonding between atoms to attain certain sets of stable valence electron arrangements. Lewis symbols of atoms are represented by a symbol of the elements surrounded by electrons as dots. Start with 1 electron per side before pairing up. These electrons represent the valence electrons around the atom. The figures shown here are elements in period 2 in main group families from 1A to 8A. Elements in the same family will have the same number of valence electrons. Here is a practice question. Write the Lewis symbol for arsenic or As. For the Lewis theory in chemical bonding, there are 3 statements we must be familiar with. One, atoms bond because it results in a more stable electron configuration. 2, atoms bond together by either transferring or sharing electrons. 3, usually this results in all atoms obtaining an outer shell with 8 electrons. The octet rule means an atom must have 8 electrons. Note, there are elements that will be exemptions to this octet rule. That will be discussed in covalent bonding. When doing Lewis symbols for ions, cations must have the charge as an ion, whereas anions must have the electrons and charge written outside the brackets. For ionic bonds, metals give up electrons to form cations. Non-metals gains electrons to form anions. The resulting structure is an ion-ion attraction, positive to negative. Lewis theory can allow us to predict the correct formula of ionic compounds. Here an example of using Lewis theory. And here is the question. Predict the formula of the compound that forms between calcium and chlorine. There are two steps. Step 1, draw the Lewis dot symbols of the elements. Step 2, transfer all the valence electrons from the metal to the nonmetal, adding more of each atom as you go, until all the electrons are lost from the metal atoms and all the non-metal atoms have 8 electrons. The final Lewis dot structure is a calcium ion with 2 chloride ions with a chemical symbol of CaCl2. Here is a review exercise for your consideration. Show how the electrons are transferred and the bond is formed when A, Na reacts with S, and B, Al reacts with O. Provide the final chemical formula of each substance under Lewis theory.